You mentioned like having these days when you work the whole day and go to bed exhausted. How many hours per day do you work on chess on such days?
I think it can very much depend. I think sometimes I'm like very happy with 6, and I think like 4 to 6 hours is kind of a perfect amount on like an average day to do like really focused work. I think right before a tournament, if I'm really grinding a lot, it can be, I mean, basically from like morning until you go to bed, right? So yeah, I think those are good days, and I really appreciate those as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think as long as I enjoy it, I feel like it's not really something that you really mind, I guess. And I think probably a lot of other people are also working in the same way. Maybe not every day, but let's say on yeah, some days, yeah, for sure.
I see. And most of that time is dedicated to what? To openings?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about changing my style a little bit. Yeah, in general, I'm kind of like a very opening degenerate players, and I think there are some players at the top level who are very similar. Let's say trying to get big advantage out of the opening. In general, I think it helps me a little bit. I feel like maybe because I play a lot of these open tournaments, like it kind of saves a little bit of energy. And I think against most, let's say, sub 20, like below 2,700 players, generally I can expect to get like pretty big advantages out of the opening, which is okay, a little bit, let's say, unfair, right? But yeah, it's kind of, I just naturally enjoy doing it. I think for me, it kind of feels like a very satisfying work, like sort of like research work. And I think the other players, some other players, let's say, are they don't like to do this as much, and let's say they solve a lot of exercises, and they, I'm not sure, do a lot of other different things. Every player has their own style. Naturally, we kind of gravitate to what we like doing a little bit more. And generally, I find like some elements of the game much more satisfying than others. Yeah, I definitely like neglected some parts of, let's say, the chess. Yeah, like if you're trying to max out all your skills, definitely for sure there are some skills that I'm lacking. And so I think probably moving forward, just trying to be more regular and kind of more well-rounded in my work routine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned tactics. Is that one of such areas, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. Generally, I just kind of refuse to solve studies, or like exercises. I read once that, Magnus never solves exercises. So I was like, if, it's good enough for him. Unfortunately, I just like, 8 billion other people in the world, we realized that we're not Magnus Carlsen. So probably time to pick up some of the books, right? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of all part of the just becoming, I guess, a better chess player. You sort of have to study everything and sort of be good at a lot of different areas of the game. I think in particular, what I understood from the first couple of games with Hans, yeah, I think it was kind of, he was very good at resisting. And I think even in, much worse positions or let's say like objectively somewhat lost positions, he found a lot of resources, and he put up a lot of resistance. And I think it was kind of a level that I wasn't that used to before. I think also against Hikaru, he, let's say, has some shaky play in the opening, and then he kind of put up a tremendous amount of resistance afterwards. And I think also that level I maybe was like a little bit, not as used to. And I think probably moving forward for sure, like I think, yeah, there's kind of pluses and minuses. I think, on the plus side, I'm able to generate these sort of chances against top players, which I think not everyone is able to do. On the minus, of course, there's some work to be done in improving my conversion and maybe avoiding the blunders so much. So yeah, I guess we'll kind of see, and it's just part of the part of the journey.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask you, Sindarov recently in an interview said that he doesn't really read chess books, and he hasn't studied most of the classical chess literature. What's your attitude towards like reading books about the great champions of the past, analyzing their games, and what's your take on what he said, if you know what I'm referring to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think I used to read more books when I was younger. Not just chess books, but just in general. Now I'm a little bit less, because I think sometimes they're not as they're not as important, or they're not as like succinct sometimes as you'd like them to be. I always felt like reading books was, let's say, not that helpful for improving at chess. But just in general for culture, I think is important. I guess I'm not sure if you ever lived in Russia, or
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So I guess in Russia they have this very great culture, and is like very important. And maybe in America we don't have as much emphasis on that, right? So yeah, I think in terms of uh, I don't know, let's say like making money or like doing business or whatever, I think like yeah, probably like reading some philosophy or something is not that important. Yeah, in the same way, I think for chess, it's also like I think studying the games of Botvinnik is like maybe it won't help you when cracking the latest Petrov novelties. But yeah, I think it's good for culture and just for I don't know, understanding people, understanding how people lived, how things used to be, and just like the stories from chess are very nice. So I kind of understand like both perspectives. I think it's probably not the most useful thing to do with your time if you're only focused on improving. But for sure, like I think just I don't know, just about life. I think it's good to know some things and just to grapple with some of the ideas and stories of the human experience. And I think as chess players, if we play chess, for sure that is something worthwhile to do. So yeah, I think I probably don't read as much as I should, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, probably because I'm Russian and I've lived a big part of my life in Russia. I I want to argue here and say how important books are. Also, like all my childhood coaches insisted that everybody should study Botvinnik because, like his famous Bishop A3 move against Capablanca, for example, this is like something you should know the pattern that you may encounter in your games. What about that argument, by the way, the pattern recognition, the fact that many of the combinations, for example, of the champions of the past, if you know them, you encounter something like that in your games that will help you. What about that argument?
Yeah, we're kind of in a unique era of chess because we kind of have this oracle, like black box, that just tells you what the best move is every single time. And so I think if you're trying to understand like strategic concepts, or let's say where the pieces should go, how the game should develop, of course we should study the great players of our past like Botvinnik and Alekai and Capablanca, all of these. I guess Alyohin for the Russians. But yeah, I think the truth is that if you really want to dive into like the heart of what a position is about, like what is actually the truth here, what are the plans, like what are exactly right. I think it is probably true that the work of a computer in 1 minute would be a team of 100 grandmasters working for 1 year on one position. Yeah, just because like I think like you can't really compete against that level of. I think computers both understand chess better than us now, and also with the development of processors, they're just like much faster than we can ever be. Yeah, I think unfortunately chess is kind of not about beauty or about some artistic value. But I think fundamentally playing chess is kind of about winning chess games. And so I think what you kind of see is, yeah, I think, when it comes to living life, that's of course a different story. But when it comes to winning chess games, I think, yeah, people probably feel that they might not need to know as many classics. Of course, it kind of goes without saying that I guess Magnus is like the most, he just like knows all the classics. He's like the most historical guy ever, right? So it kind of goes both ways. I guess we don't really know. Yeah, when it comes to pattern recognition, I think, I don't really feel like there's any wrong way to do things. I haven't really had that much experience at the top, and I don't talk to that many top players, but from what I can gather, everyone kind of just does their own thing. And probably the most important thing is just like the quantity you spend on chess and thinking about chess and working with the chessboard. So whether that's with the classics or whether that's just with the engine or playing training games or tactics, I guess all of that is probably pretty helpful. Yeah.
Probably recent experience shows, yes, that there are many ways to progress in chess, and some players just play lots of online and improve very, very fast. Others study the classics.